So I wanted to go through a couple common patterns that you'll see in your Fiddler traces just to make sure you understand that these are normal and why you would see these. The first one is if you use Windows authentication. As you make a request from the browser to the server wants to identify who you are to see if you have access to the particular website. It's actually a three-way handshake, more or less, where the browser will first send a request without any authentication information. The server first sends back a 401 status saying you're not authorized, but it puts in the response header information, the types of authentication it will support. The client then picks one of those, retransmits again with some more information, and then the server finally comes back and says you are okay or you're not okay now that I know who you are. So that's a typical thing you'll see with Windows authentication, a 401, a 401, and a 200. Later we'll see how if you don't want to see those in your traces, you can actually turn off the two 401s. But if you have that turned on, don't be concerned. For each connection that your web browser is making back to your server that needs to be authenticated with Windows, you'll see those requests before the server knows who you are and lets you respond with the normal 200. Also, if you have a corporate proxy servers return a 407, you'll see the same kind of pattern. So if you were going from your desktop at work and you have a corporate proxy server, you will often see then your first request will come back again with a rejection. You'll see the same sort of handshake go on between the client and the proxy server in this case before the proxy server finally makes its decision. It knows who you are, and then it sends back and says this is either valid or not valid. The first common pattern we'll look at again is Windows authentication. So the idea is I've got my local website set up to require Windows authentication. As my browser makes its first request, you'll see there's no information in the request that identifies anything about who I am. The web server comes back and says it's a 401, you're not authorized, but it comes back with I'm willing to negotiate authentication, and in my case all I've got turned on is NTLM or Windows authentication. The browser then will send up some information in the handshake, and the server will respond with some more information. Then the client can finally send on what the server had transmitted, and the request will complete as you would expect. So again, it's going to do this for each connection that you have. So browsers open up multiple connections back to your web server. So you'll see this pattern of two 401s, then the actual request will work. And then for each back connection, you'll see 401. So you'll see a lot of 401s at the beginning until each connection has been authenticated. And then you'll see the normal trace that you would expect.